Hi guys, I'm Brad and welcome to the Great Hollywood Rewrite, where we take a look at some of cinema and TV's most troublesome titles and have a poke around under the hood. I'm joined today by John. Hi John.
Hello Brad.
This week our audience selected the film Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines from 2003, written by John Brancato and Michael Ferris and directed by Jonathan Mostow. But before we start to discuss the intricacies of time travel, destiny, and inflatable robot boobs, if you haven't done so already, check out the website, thescriptdepartment.net, for all our latest projects, including script readings from our international network of screenwriters. Also, you can follow us on social media. Just hit the links in the description. And of course, you can subscribe to our podcast. And if you feel like supporting us to make more quality pieces of content like the one you're about to watch, you can also click the link below and buy us a coffee. Right, John, Terminator 3, coming off the back of, it was a while. It was, 13 years, coming off the back of one of the, possibly the best, I'm going to say it, possibly the best sequel ever made. One of the most successful sci-fi action films to date in movie history. And we were given Terminator 3. Different cast, mainly, different director, different writer. How do you feel that it went?
It's a bit of a dud, I think. I definitely think this film has some cool little moments in it. And I remember being really blown away by the ending of the ending of this film. And I've heard a lot of people when they talk about the different Terminator movies, the end scene of this film always comes up in conversation in a good way. You know, there are some interesting ideas in play, but I think the biggest issue with this film is it is too much rinse and repeat without really making a significant effort. There's too much. It also suffered, I think, from the kind of the early 21st century studio marketing. You know, if you think back to Alien versus Predator when that came out, I remember everybody, you know, when I was in film school, we all flocked to see that movie because there was that brilliant shot of all the aliens scurrying up the side of the pyramid. And then when you watch the movie, you realize it's just a flashback, isn't it? And I think Terminator Rise of the Machines, you know, I'm looking at it on IMDb here, and you've got the poster and you've got these little clips from the trailer, a very 90s style trailer, even though it came out in 2003. You know, it's showing the machines, it's showing all the, you know, the post-apocalyptic destruction, but then it's also showing the present day stuff. And you're thinking, wow, we're kind of getting the best of both worlds here, aren't we? And then when you watch the film, you realize you're not really. It is very much... it's a safer, cheaper version of James Cameron's film, even though it had at the time the most expensive special effects shot of all, or special effects, or most expensive action sequence, I think.
Which I believe Schwarzenegger paid for, right? He paid for that out of his own pocket because it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. And there are cool moments in it. You know, Schwarzenegger carrying the coffin through the cemetery, shooting up a cemetery is pretty cool, you know. And again, like I said, I think the ending is a real masterstroke to go there, you know, to take it in that direction. But generally speaking, it's too samey. And for a film that's probably more expensive, it felt cheaper.
Yeah, I think that was, I think the rehash nature of it is, I mean, to be fair, I mean, the sending the robot back is the Terminator. That is where it started, and then Terminator 2 rehashed that to a point, but they did it phenomenally well. Like they took it up one extra level.
And they subverted it, you know? And I think a great sequel should do that. A great sequel should give you more of what you loved before, but just flip it. You know, it turns out actually he's here to help you, you know? And Terminator 3, I would welcome that same characters come back, whatever, but you got to subvert it a little bit more again. You know, you got to turn on its head and, you know, hopefully we'll figure out some ideas on how to do that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when this came out, I was like 21, 22, and I was all about Terminator 1 and 2. Like, I was ecstatically happy that it was happening. Massive Arnie fan. I remember collecting all of his DVDs all the way from like Hercules in New York. I was like, yes, going to get every single one of them. So when this was coming out, I was really excited. I was in Manchester at the time. I think I was visiting, and I went to their big Odeon, and it's got, you know, the velvet curtains and everything. I was like, yes. And I felt a little underwhelmed. It was, like you say, it was a rehash of sorts, but they didn't nail it. I think there were quite a few problems with getting the cast back, getting a script that everyone was happy with. So the original cast, like Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, I think they'd always planned to kill her off because they couldn't get Cameron back. So they wrote it and they thought, we're going to kill her off, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad idea because she's such a huge character, but she didn't want to do that because they were killing her halfway through. So rather than change the script to suit Linda Hamilton, they just changed the script and she wasn't in it. And it's like,
and you're touching on one of the biggest issues that I think the Terminator franchise has had for a while. I'm going to say something here, and I know people will think I'm crazy for this. I don't think I've ever met anybody, maybe outside of yourself, who likes Terminator Salvation. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're not a fan.
I like Salvation.
Yeah. I thought so. I really like Salvation. And the thing that I really like about it is that it is just a fresh movie. It isn't, we have to get Arnie back, so let's contrive a series of events that allows Arnie to come back. There are only few real options on the table for how Arnie can be in that movie. And the minute you say Arnie has to be in this, you're forcing the film to go down. And don't get me wrong, I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you're forcing the film to go down a road where it runs the risk of just being samey. Terminator Salvation allowed itself to be something different, for better or worse, but it allowed itself to be something different, and I liked that.
It was different. It was exciting as well. It was an exciting change.
Yeah, and we will do another episode on that, I'm sure, because it is a film that a lot of people really don't like. But it's the same with the Alien franchise. Again, a franchise that Cameron had a role in. Every time you say the alien has to show up, you are contriving a series of events where you're kind of forcing the hand of the writers into you're risking an unimaginative pathway.
Yeah. I think there are shackles that can damage.
Yeah. And again, for better or worse, Ridley Scott's recent interpretations of that franchise tried to do something fresh that broke free from the shackles of those contrivances and those kind of plot requirements, while at the same time giving us some of that as well. And I do think there is a middle ground here where you can create a movie that doesn't have to just be Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back from the future, while at the same time giving us the stuff we love.
I think having linchpins forced into a script aren't exactly helpful. I was listening to an interesting interview with John McTiernan actually about Predator, and the studio kept saying, "Get more guns, put more guns in it. We need loads more guns. We need them all firing off." And he was fighting that. He didn't want to do that. He's not exactly. He makes a lot of gun films, but he isn't like gun. He's not into the gun porn side of things. He doesn't like that. So as a protest, he put in that scene where they just mow down the forest for like 5 or 10 minutes. And they just use all of their ammo, and then someone comes back and says, "We hit nothing." And it was like that was his protest against, you don't need these scenes. But instead, he gave birth to that scene that was in every action film from that point onwards for the next 20 years.
And the irony then is that Prey, the new Predator, doesn't have a single gun in it, does it?
Exactly.
I don't know. I have to watch it this weekend, but I'm pretty sure it's the period that it's set in, we're not going to be getting Gatling guns.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for the sake of this podcast, we'll imagine that if we want them, we could get Linda Hamilton and Edward Furlong back in this film, because why not? we're in an imaginary world here. If we want them, we should get them.
You know what? I think there's fun as well in the challenge of seeing if we can avoid just playing the ace up the sleeve. We've got Linda Hamilton back, for the time being, because I have a feeling, I think everybody's got their vision of what Terminator could be, and I do think the studio is definitely responsible for holding this back. I think Columbia TriStar was it. I think they are absolutely responsible for holding this franchise, for holding this film back from what it could have been by maybe not throwing enough money to this person or that person, or again creating a script that just wasn't, or getting involved in a script that just wasn't up to scratch. It'd be nice to see if we can. It'd be nice to see if we can also fix it without being too reliant on those linchpins again. I think that might be interesting as well. But yeah, let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah, I think there was issues with Corelco going under and all that kind of stuff, and then the rights changing hands. And let's imagine that's not happened to us. We've been lucky. So I think the first. So I'll rattle through the points and then we'll go back. So tonally, it's very different. There's a lot of comic relief and self-satire. We've already spoken about the T2, T1 rehash. So I think there's something, I think we'll be rehashing it in some way, shape or form, but I think we need to really hit it home. Sarah Connor, dead or alive, that's another big point. Like, she's missed in this film. John Connor's character is a little bit unusual. It's probably not what you'd expect him to be, particularly in this timeline. The TX, quite inconsistent and unusual murderous robot in this one. The relationship between John and the T850 or the T800, whichever we decide to call it, that is not there anymore, considering what happened in Terminator 2. I know that the robot won't be aware of it, but John should be. There's very little warmth and connection. And then the biggest thing for me is they broke the no fate, destiny kind of chain they were doing here, that there's no fate but what we make for ourselves, and they just say no. No, it is destiny. Sorry everyone. So if we go back to the first one, there's the tone. So the first film was very, very dark. Second film had the same darkness, but it had some really cool stuff in it, and there was some comic relief. Some of it was cut out, but we've seen it as cut scenes. But there was a bit of comic relief, but there was an underlying terror in this film that the world is going to end if these protagonists die. And that doesn't feel like it's come through. What do you think? It feels like a very much popcorny action, self-satire kind of movie. What do you think of it, the tone?
The tone in the moments of humor came in part two came from John Connor's relationship with, Edward Furlong, young Edward Furlong's relationship with the Terminator. It wasn't fun when he was with his buddies. It became fun when he was with the Terminator, hasta la vista, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And when you immediately kind of open this story with John Connor is moving from town to town. He doesn't use credit cards. He's staying off the grid. He's intentionally sabotaging any opportunity for kind of happiness or growth or anything. You are immediately telling us that this is a dark view, or a very he's not optimistic about the future, right? And yet you're contradicting yourselves then with the moments of humor. I don't mind a film that tries to be fun and light, but this is a movie about the end of the world, and it literally ends with the end of the world, and it's incredibly upbeat throughout, despite the fact that the first thing you see is him falling off his motorcycle and like carrying himself into a vet because he won't go to a hospital. I mean, like, this is real, like, tragic character stuff, and yet it's immediately clashing with. It's weird. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the one doing the humor, and it just feels like it's coming from a strange source. So it's very, very very disconnected, and I think, given the subject of the story, the direction the story goes in, I think, I'm a firm believer tonal whiplash can be a great thing. You can have us laughing our ass off for the whole movie, and then you can hit us with a ton of bricks at the end and give us a really powerful ending. And that can just really shock us into another emotional state. And that can work really well. Likewise, you can have really great triumphant moments then contrasted by moments of tragedy or whatever. There's the roller coaster effect. We won. Oh crap, my best friend just got wounded in the process. You can have great moments like that in every film, and story structure in Hollywood is built around that. This is not that done well. This is talk to the hand, in the strip club when
don't say it, John. Come on.
You know what I mean? It's what are we doing with that? That's not humor. That's not tonally embedded into the story. That's just him saying what he thinks is a funny line.
Yeah. I think there are issues with it. I think Terminator 2 did it so well, the whiplash. So, for example, there's so many of them to try and think about, but the one where he picks him up and he then figures out that he's his own Terminator, but there's the two big dudes coming over from the other side of the car park, and they're coming to help this kid. And then he's like, oh, I got my own Terminator, stand on one leg. And it's like, oh, this is funny, look what's happening. And then the guys come over and he's like, oh, take a hike, you jock douchebags. And then all of us, like in the snap of a second, it is as dark as Sarah Connor, yes. And he's about to kill them. He's going to just execute those guys on the hood of the car. And it is shocking. And this doesn't do that. We sort of have talked to the, I've got to say, the talk to the hand twice. And the sunglasses kind of tries to do it, but drops them.
So much, yeah. I mean, we'll get into. One thing I did want to talk about was, and I'll save for later, but it's the inconsistencies in the rules of the world, and we'll get onto that. I think we'll get onto that when we talk about the TX. Is that her name? Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I do think you just need to. Yeah, I don't really know what to do actually with it, because I feel like this is the movie where it needs to be really serious. Like this is called Rise of the Machines. They're telegraphing where this is going, and I don't know how much room you can have for this, for laugh out loud moments.
Yeah, I think any sort of change in tone needs to be a respite. That could be comedic. It could be, it could be an emotional scene, but it needs. There's a relentless nature to specifically Terminator 1 and, of course, Terminator 2, which is, I don't know, we don't really get that in this one. Even when they're on the road in Terminator 2 and they're in New Mexico, you're worried they're going to get caught straight away. Like in Terminator 3, they're like going around they're stealing an RV that's got no one in it and all this kind of stuff, and it's like there is a lack of fear there. So I think if this one is going to be darker, which I think you're right, I think it probably does need to be, the respites from that need to be really solidly bookended in the chase or in the gloom.
Claire Danes' character, Kate Brewster, who becomes such a pivotal, particularly in Terminator Salvation as well, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, becomes a really important figure in this lore. Her husband gets murdered, or her fiance gets murdered in this film, and it's very quickly kind of brushed over. Now in Terminator 2, his foster parents get murdered, but they're not meant to be nice people, as far as I can remember. From what I remember, they're I get the feeling he was not in a good home there. Now, not that justifies murder, but it's like it's easy for an audience to get to feel, all right, we can move past that. Okay, good, they're gone. John is in a better place now.
Yeah,
because now he's actually safer with the Terminator, probably. But the idea of Kate Brewster, who is totally innocent in this world. And she's just her, he tells her your fiance is dead. And it's like, and she's shocked, but it's like, that's the kind of thing you need to let breathe for a moment.
Yeah.
And, and again, when we find out that Sarah Connor is dead, that's a pretty big moment, and they do let it breathe, but Sarah Connor's legacy needs to be more than just a coffin full of guns. So I think tonally, this is the end of one life, and it's the beginning of a new life. That's what's happening in this film. we tried to protect our old way of life in Terminator 2, but now we're really moving away from our old life and embracing this new life, like this post-apocalyptic life that's going to happen. And it doesn't feel like the filmmakers know where this is going to go, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. I think there's a level of inconsistency throughout that would need to be assessed. I think the tone will come more through when we talk about the next point, which is the T2 rehash. So T2 rehash T1 phenomenally well, as we've already said, and it upped the ante and it figured out a way to invert stuff. There was a duality between the anti-hero and the antagonist, and there was something wonderful going on there. So if we're going to do a T3 and we're going to keep a similar formula,
I've got a pitch for you.
Go on. I want to. You told me you got a pitch, John. I want to hear it. I want to hear this pitch.
I'm not trying to tear down the walls and rebuild a whole new Terminator or anything like that. But if Terminator 1 is Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back to kill Sarah Connor, the mother of the savior, and Terminator 2 is Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back to be a protector to John Connor, and there's the evil Terminator coming back to kill them. If you're going to do the same thing and have evil Terminator, you want the best of both worlds. You want the best of Terminator 1, best of Terminator 2. You make this film about Kate Brewster, which they try carefully to try and do, but they don't really pull it off. You make it about her from the beginning, and you have Kate Brewster being the one being pursued by Arnold Schwarzenegger. But it's like, no, I'm here to protect you. And then there's a big showdown with the TX, maybe end of Act 1, where it's like, okay, now I understand you are here to protect me. And she doesn't really know they're robots or whatever. And then, of course, she's going to try and get away from the Terminator. Because it's like, even if you try to protect me, like, I'm still terrified of all of you, so I'm still going to try and get away. And as she's trying to get away, John Connor comes in and says, come with me if you want to live. And pulls her away. And he becomes the, Kyle Reese of the story. Yeah. And so you get the same dynamic of Terminator 1.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Except
like
John
that.
Connor is Kyle Reese. And when Kyle Reese impregnates Sarah Connor in Terminator 1 to give birth to John Connor, who becomes the hero of Terminator 2, or will become the hero down the line, it's John Connor has a relationship with Kate Brewster. They fall in love. And then you repeat the cycle, but this time because isn't that the idea? It's like John Connor is going to die, but you are going to give birth to the new savior. That's what they're trying to insinuate in Terminator 3 anyway. And then you see Bryce Dallas Howard pregnant in Terminator Salvation.
Nice.
Which I liked in that movie because it set up the idea that maybe John Connor will die in that movie. It did create a stakes I don't think many fans were kind of paying attention to. But you do this, you have it be a case where now Kate Brewster has to learn the truth about this world. You've got an immediate vehicle there for people who haven't a clue what's going on in this franchise. And then the Terminator ultimately they have to work with Schwarzenegger to stop the TX. And the Terminator might not even know who John Connor is. And so John Connor's like, I don't trust this one because this is a new one. And you could do something like that. I really love the idea that the day before we see John Connor in Terminator 2, like when we see him robbing the ATM with his buddy, the night before he was in the basement of his buddy's house playing Spin the Bottle with Kate Brewster or whatever they were doing, like they kissed each other or something. And it was her first kiss, and then he disappeared the next day and was never seen again. And I love that idea. I think there's something cool about that. So there is a foundation for this relationship to grow, based on backstory and so on. And I think
I like that the we are taking, because the whole point of these films has become like reliving things. I mean, we see it in a lot of franchises. Like Star Wars have just done it again. I say just over the last 10 years they've done it again, and they've done, and they did it well. I thought they did it very well, and we were living the same stories that we love again. So there's nothing wrong with a rehash, but it has to step up. So I think the fact of giving John the Kyle Reese role is very interesting. I think there's one thing that always jumps out at me about this film, and I think the franchise. It's like how does time travel work here? Like, so they come back and they in Terminator 1 stop the Terminator from killing Sarah, and somehow seed Cyberdyne. It's a cutscene, but it's they see Cyberdyne, they find the arm and the chip and everything. Terminator 2, they destroy Cyberdyne and they stop Judgment Day, and that's kind of like a victory. But it's sort of hinted that there may be trouble in the path ahead, regardless of what they've done. So then Terminator, how do they then send Terminators back? So they're trying to say, yes, there is trouble. Yes, Judgment Day happened anyway. But it's like, does the future change? Like, what happens in the future?
Schwarzenegger says when they're driving, because John Connor is saying that he's like, we stopped, we blew up, you don't remember, but we did it, and he's like, I think he says something to the lines of, you only delayed it, it is inevitable, it is always going to happen, which completely undermines No Fate, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing that script could have been so like just a few words different, and and it could be, you stopped that Judgment Day, but AI was developed and it happened. It doesn't have to be like it was always going to happen. It was definite, because it breaks the No Fate.
I think what I would have also maybe done is you could maybe link it back to, you're never going to be able to stop this. It's inevitable. It will always happen. What you can change is how it unfolds. And if you hadn't stopped it in 97, Kate Brewster would have died. And by stopping it in 97, you allowed Kate Brewster to live. You would have still lived, but Kate Brewster wouldn't have. And it's not you that's going to be the savior. It's John Connor Jr. I don't know. That sounds cheesy when I say it out loud. But, you can make the argument that, like, you guys got to a point. I have thought about this a lot, actually, when the new film came out, Dark Fate. You could make the argument that it's like, everything that happens in Terminator 2 allowed for John Connor to be the military leader so that he can send Kyle Reese back. Mm-hmm. If things hadn't played out that way, we would never have been able to get to a point to send Kyle Reese back to save my mother. I don't know. And I'm sure that, of course, that has its own paradoxes, but you could make the argument as well that by stopping Judgment Day in 97, you created a scenario that allows Kate Brewster to take up a pivotal role that will ultimately allow, and it can be like, you can't destroy Skynet, but you can do something with Skynet, or you can sow the seeds for something later on. Whatever, I don't know. And I feel like that's what this movie should have been trying to explain. It's destiny. We're not trying to win by this move. We're trying to create a series of events where we can play this move instead.
Yeah. I like that.
Kind of like what Doctor Strange does in those movies, in the Marvel movies, where he plays into Thanos' hands, knowing that it's creating a move for later on. And I think, something like that might make for a more interesting explanation of the timeline.
Yeah, so the interesting thing that the more modern films have been doing, particularly the Marvel films, is to revisit what changing the past means. And, in Endgame, they're talking about Back to the Future, Hot Tub Time Machine, etc., saying this is how time travel works. And Banner's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, you don't change the future, you create an alternate branch in reality. And that's where a lot of films have gone. I don't know how that works for this, because they are in a changed future. So maybe we could say, yes, you stopped Judgment Day, but you created a branch. Maybe there's something here that we can go for, because I think if you're saying for me, it was always weird that they're like, "Yep, we changed Judgment Day, and it happened anyway, but the name of the company was the same. The name of the AI was the same. The Terminators looked identical. Like what? Why that wouldn't be the same, would it? That surely it would. There would need to be some sort of like branching of reality, at least just to give it some ambiguous, like there would be a thread of ambiguity that you could like pull at and go, oh no, there is something going on in the future. We've created an alternate timeline, and they are also trying to kill you. And it's there is a an ignorance to that might actually play into like the belief, the conceit of the script.
You know what you could do? You could have it be that John Connor is the only one left who really knows what Skynet could be. He's the only one who would know the name Skynet. He's the only one who would associate that with AI. And I was wondering maybe if you did something where in the future he maybe utilized that as a way to, or maybe as he got older he joined the military or something like that, because now he's got this kind of protector kind of mentality about him or something like that, or this fighter mentality about him. And I don't know, maybe you could have it like you have started a chain of events where Skynet will continue to exist because you know it exists, and the only way to stop, Skynet is still there in the consciousness of people in this timeline.
Yes.
And until all of those people are gone, your mother died, but until you're gone, it'll always still be a threat in the future. Because let's say if the military captured him and tortured him, what did you guys get up to in 1990? Oh, we were, and then he tells the story. It's like now you've put the idea in people's minds again. Wait, you mean that Cyberdyne was doing this? Oh, wow, okay. And now it's like, and I wonder could you make this story around the idea like, I'm not here to protect you, John Connor. In fact, if anything, you need to die because like Kyle Reese died, like you actually need to die because you're the last person who knows all of this stuff, who has all the information.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether he would need some sort of active role in it though, like a fully active role in creating it. Because if it's just in his head, I don't know if that would sell the idea that he's responsible for Skynet. I've just thought of a plot device that might work as we've been chatting. What if when they sent the T-800 back to the 90s, at the same time they sent one a bit further down the line just to make sure, or they sent a bunch of them. They sent an army of them a bit further down the line, or what? Yeah. So there isn't this thing of converging realities. It's like, don't ask me exactly how it works because they just sent two sets of Terminators back in different times, and this is what happened. This is how the chemistry of science works.
You have actually I love that, and I think you have just given this franchise 20 more years of movies. If you said that, there are Terminators. I think maybe the Sarah Connor Chronicles played with that idea, but
yes,
it's you have we have scattered them throughout history in the hopes of finding you because we don't know exactly where. And we will get you now, or we will get you in 5 years, we'll get you 10 years, as you say. And there you go. You've got a quest for John Connor to go on for the rest of life. I am making it my mission to clear out this planet of Terminators.
Yeah.
I will build an army as I go. And guess what? It's inevitably going to lead to,
yes.
And with that many machines walking around the place, with that much evidence left behind and that much explosions and damage and so on, you are going to somebody is going to build Skynet.
Yes, I like that. I think there's maybe they could. I don't know how that mechanic would work, but surely there'd be some like formula that the machines used as like moments of convergence that would be the best time to send someone back. Do they get hold of that? Do they know when they're coming?
Yeah.
Do they have some sort of? Yeah, they don't have to know when they're coming.
They can be living among you, and it could be this, and it could do the thing that like they tried to do with Terminator or Dark Fate. He's just living there. He's got a normal life. He met somebody and all that. Like you could just do this this thing where actually you're making them more human. And I think that could be really smart. I think that could be really smart. What Westworld is doing, if you've ever watched Westworld, it's proving it does it really well, really exceptionally well, this idea of androids learning humanity, discovering humanity, very slowly, very carefully, and very and sometimes very, in dark and troubling ways. But they learn they start to embrace that, and I think you could absolutely do that with somebody as complex as a T-800.
Maybe the resistance weren't as accurate. They didn't know when they were sending them back, so they just sent a buttload back, and they're just hanging around. They're just hanging around, slowly aging, waiting, and then of course you can age your Schwarzenegger like they've done in the more recent films. Yeah. But it gives it. I think we're borrowing that mechanic, aren't we? The pops mechanic of the aging Terminator. Yeah. But I mean, I liked that. I liked the idea of that this machine is, it's growing and aging and stuff like that.
But there's your Dark Fate story then set up, because Sarah Connor is out there killing Terminators. Guess what? She's not really dead, And then you've got Pops then just hanging around as well. Like, he's just one of them hanging around, and you've got this. Yeah, you got this great opportunity. I don't know again.
So we're kind of fixing this film by stealing films from 2 films down the line and injecting them into this one.
All right, but in defense of that, Terminator 3 can't exist in the current Terminator timeline.
Yeah,
because
they killed it off, didn't they?
Because they killed. Yeah, they said it didn't happen. So it's you can either have Dark Fate or you can have Rise of the Machines, but we're saying that we have to have Rise of the Machines here for the purposes of this episode. So.
Absolutely.
So Dark Fate doesn't work in our timeline. How does that happen? Anyway.
So are we going to say that I think we're agreed we like the mechanic of them they hit send to all, and they sent a bunch of Terminators back to various points, and that'll give us a franchise. When are they coming? What are they going to be? How many are there? So for T3 specifically, so we've got the mechanic. Do they send a few of them? Is there a team of Terminators here?
I think yes. And there's you do aliens. It's Terminators.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. They've sent a bunch of them back, and they're all going to converge on this moment. Like, they've all been hanging around different years and so on, looking for John throughout different years, different moments, and they're all going to converge on this moment. And maybe not all of them are evil at that point. Maybe something is happening, or maybe they are. But
so the moment of convergence,
you can't win it. Yeah, and you can't win this moment. You can't win, and you call it Terminator Convergence instead of Rise of the Machines. You don't give away the ending.
Well, I'd kind of expect. So the ones that were hanging around, I would have expected those to be the Rebels Terminators, because I think if they send back a Terminator, it's going to take a few hours to locate John Connor, as they do. That's their job. So I think the Cybernet, the Skynet ones will have to just appear. Here they are. Here's the ones that they sent back to this point in time. There's a sleeper Terminator from the Rebels waiting, and that's how we do it. I was just thinking to step it up from T1000, which was incredible. Do they set? Because I think the TX is a step down from the
I agree.
T1000. Yeah. It's got a skeleton. It just doesn't seem to work right. What is it we're looking at here? I know we're jumping ahead a bit about the TX, but I think we can wipe that one out here as well.
I think you can't get more advanced than liquid metal, can you? I mean,
well, what happens if you have a number of liquid metal?
Yeah, but they do. I know they do nanobots and all that kind of stuff in Genesis, but like, I would just stick to T1000s. I don't know.
What, and have it send 3 back or something? Can they all melt together and make a really tall Robert Patrick?
Yeah, the only problem is, but again, you see, you can do whatever you want here because they're not going to win. That's the point. Our heroes aren't going to win, and you can have a situation. You know how your Robert Patricks or your T1000s die. They die in a nuclear blast. because this world is going to end. Like, you have this be a situation where we can't beat all of them this time. We don't have a smelting machine or any, or what was it, a smelting plant or whatever. We don't have any of that kind of stuff to save the day. But we can't call in the military, can we? I mean, and even if we do, they're all going to turn on us soon anyway. So you have it be a case where we're just trying to outrun these guys. It is the ultimate. We're just trying to escape, and we're able to take down maybe one or two of them. But by the time you get to it's just get to the vault, and you can have them banging on the door of the vault, trying to tear down the vault in whatever way they can, in the nuclear bunker, the fallout shelter, and then the blasts go off, and it's like you will die in the blasts, and you'll never get to John Connor, and you could do something like that, where you don't have to worry about how you stop them because you can't stop them. I think that's why they went down the road of the TX, because they needed something that you could maybe shoot and blow up. I know she's half T-1000, but it feels like once she gets down to like the skeleton at the end, it feels very practical. Like, it feels very tangible. Like, you can pull these arms off. Like, you could break the head off if you needed to in some way. I don't know how you would do that, but it doesn't feel like it's liquid metal that will always outsmart you at that point.
Okay, yeah. So are we? I don't know. Are we definitely going to keep the ending? I love the ending. I think this ending is incredible.
I think you need.
But if we do keep Judgment Day as the ending of this film, we're ruining our franchise mechanic of they send many of them back over periods of time throughout your life. We've got to the point where it has ended it. So what do we do? Because we can still have that ending in another film, a few films down the franchise. We don't have to have it in this one. If we're setting up a new mechanic that will give us many delicious Terminator films from here on out, we can't have Judgment Day in this episode, can we? You look stumped.
That's true. That's true. I really am stumped. But then you have to have them be able to beat the bad guys. You have to be able to beat it. So I don't know if you can have T-1000s, because they barely made it out of that one alive.
Well, they just, what did they do? Blow it, put it in a smelting plant. Surely there's a load of smelting plants. There's nothing more dangerous than a smelting plant. I mean, there's quite a few things that are more powerful than a smelting plant in the world. Like,
I think this is one that we can't come up with a solution for. Okay. Because it makes no. I want this franchise to make logical sense. I know that sounds silly because it's Terminator, but I don't want I want Skynet to be terrifying. They're not going to send Arnold Schwarzenegger back anymore when they've got Robert Patrick. And, they're not going to send Robert Patrick back anymore if the TX is better than that. I know it doesn't really feel that way in this movie, but they could have done better on that. If this is really, like, as you say, they can find him in a few hours, if they're that good, then they're not going to be playing with the obsolete technology anymore. And I don't know how you keep John Connor managing to win every time. Like, that's why I like this ending, because you can't just keep outrunning the Terminators every time. And even when you look at Terminator Salvation, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger wins in that movie. Like in Terminator, in Rise of the Machines, he says, "I killed you in the future." And they follow through on that. Like, to McGee's credit, they follow through on that. The T-800 beats John Connors so hard that his heart stops. And he registers, Skynet registers that John Connor has died. And then they're able to do a heart transplant later and save him. So Skynet believes John Connor died. So when they send him back to Rise of the Machines, on record, John Connor died at the hands of T-800. Like, I love that in 2 movies, John Connor lost. He lost the fight in both instances. Or he barely lived to fight another day. There is no real victory in Terminator 3 or 4. And so I don't know. I mean, sorry, I'm rambling, but I don't know how you do all the Terminators for each movie. I know I said that it kind of saves the franchise, but I also think it weakens the Terminators if they're able to win every time.
Well, I think I guess to the point, we probably got greedy there, trying to make
maybe.
a whole franchise. There's nothing wrong with a trilogy becoming another trilogy. So you could have the past trilogy and the future trilogy.
Yeah.
As it was going in that direction, that's where we kind of started to go with it. So there's no reason we can't lead up to Judgment Day. It does tidy it up a bit, and there could be a reasoning behind the fact that they'd calculated if that Terminator failed and they did this, we should send Terminators here too.
I think it's the middle ground. I think it's we got to end this film on Judgment Day, but at the same time, they've covered their grounds. They're smart. Skynet is ruthless in this instance. It's loads of Terminators sent back, but it could also be, you could also play up the idea like those Terminators were sent back to kickstart Skynet. Like, like the military were building it, but we need to infiltrate the military now and hit the red button, And it could be a case like maybe there's a Terminator walks, like we're in a fight. Arnold Schwarzenegger is cutting into a fight with the Robert Patrick character or the TX or whatever. And it's like, and it keeps just trying to get away from the fight because it's got to go somewhere. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? Oh my God, they're not here for us. Or, some of them aren't here for us anyway. They're just here to stop us. But the real mission here is to start Judgment Day. To make sure Judgment Day happens now, today. They've been waiting. They've been sowing seeds. And that could be the way where you got the middle ground. You got all these great Terminators converging, because I think that's a really cool idea. But it's like they're doing something else. They haven't just been sitting there waiting,
so they're trying to prevent the destruction of Skynet, but also trying to make it happen in the same timeline.
Yeah. And remember when the Joker in The Dark Knight says, "Do you really think I would bet the soul of Gotham in a fight against the Dark Knight?" I love that line so much because it's like, you're so smart. You knew you'd lose this fight. And you do that whole thing where it's Skynet saying, "Do you really think I'm going to bet our future and the future of this planet on whether a boy lives or dies? No. When we sent the T whatever back to fight you in 1992 or whenever it was, or 1990 was it? We sent we put a plan in motion, and you guys won that. But all you did was just delay the inevitable, because we have been sowing the seeds ever since. We have made sure that we had a backup plan, and this is the backup plan in action. You cannot beat us. You cannot beat us. We will always win." Or you can make the argument like, you cannot beat us at this game. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to play you at your game next time in the future. Like something that.
I like that the inevitability isn't literal; it's figural, like the Borg.
Yeah.
Resistance is futile. That's the inevitability of this. It's like this is our backup plan. We were going to make this happen. We knew there was a risk in T2 that you could try and prevent us because you have the knowledge. So we did this. Good luck. Here's 3 Robert Patricks, a couple of T800s, and you've got an aged T850 or T800 to fight your corner. So that could be good fun. And
and that's your halfway twist moment.
Yeah.
Crap.
Crap. So I think this will lead us onto the characters of Sarah and John Connor. So I don't dislike the fact that Sarah Connor dies, but I hate the fact it was off screen. Much like in Alien 3, it's like she deserved a death. And even if it is off screen, it has to be a hero's death. Like, I always imagine that she'd die protecting her child, because that's what the entire franchise is based on. Her character is she will die to protect her child. She will do that because he's going to save the world.
I agree with everything you're saying, but I also I don't love it, but I like that there's a cruelty to the fate of these characters. No fate but our own. you
Yeah.
died. You died of a cruel disease that you couldn't fight. Like, you couldn't win. And I do think there is a very, I don't know how to phrase this, but it's like a delicious irony there, like a deliciously kind of cruel irony to her outcome. Like, it was never her war, it was her son's war. She prepared her son. She's one of the greatest female characters in the history of cinema. I just think I cannot tell you how excited I was when I saw Linda Hamilton, kind of, shorter hair, looking like she had been in 100 MMA battles, on UFC. Like, I mean, she looked incredible she's always looked incredible in Terminator 2, and just looks like this real ferocious fighter. And she looks incredible as just the most badass, like, icon of action cinema in Terminator Dark Fate. I find it very intriguing that she succumbed to this thing. She succumbed to this illness, and that was the thing. She never saw the war. She never lived to get to the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally against the idea, but I do agree. I think maybe there's a middle ground there where she will go out in a blaze of glory. If you want to kill her, she's going to go out in a blaze of glory protecting John, or protecting Kate. Like,
so if we go
like that, like accepting the heir, like she's the heir to the throne, and she's giving her blessing. She goes out in a blaze of glory, but it's because she's going to, like, she knows she's not long for this world.
Yeah. So how's about this? How's about this? Because we've already suggested that he becomes Carl Reese and she becomes Sarah Connor. So John Connor does the Carl Reese role, and Brewster gets the Sarah Connor role. Great. That I like that, because it's poetry in motion. We're repeating something. We need to give it. We've already said that a bad rehash doesn't work, but a good one does. So we really need to give it some life. So if the Sarah Connor character was dead, and let's just say for this discussion, she died of leukemia, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible disease that killed her, John Connor would probably be a lot more broken than he is in this. He would be like a drug-addled, sort of fallen, like angry soldier of fortune. Maybe he's got a Terminator. Maybe one of the sleeper Terminators has been with him. That's how he knows that Kate Brewster's the one. Like, he knows that Kate Brewster's the one that will become.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
again, we're taking the pops thing out of Genesis. But then he could turn up at the end of the first act with his aged Arnie, saving her from 3 T-1000s. We have.
It's like it's come with us if you want to live.
Yeah. And then we do get that that will be a tidy tie-in for at least having two characters. Do we have Linda Hamilton I know that she didn't want to do that, but do we have her in flashbacks, and do we have her in a cutscene at the beginning or the end, or how? Because it feels weird not having her in it.
Here's what I would do. I would have, if Linda Hamilton isn't in it, you have it be like, we're following my mother's treasure trail here. Forget about it being her legacy as a coffin full of guns that's going to help us escape. It's, she has planted, she knew her time was up, and she laid down the groundwork for us to be able to, rather than it being the father, Kate Brewster's father, who says, here, go to this place. And it's him facilitating their escape to their survival of Judgment Day. It needs to be Sarah Connor facilitating, because she's going to protect her son. She dies protecting her son, and her death isn't, I've pressed the red button and blown up the building like in like Miles does in Terminator 2. Is it Miles? Is that his name?
Miles Dyson.
Miles Dyson. That's it. Rather than him, rather than being that kind of a sacrifice, it's, I did something, like, you think she's going to do something really dramatic, and it's underwhelming in the moment, and the Terminator is kind of curious as to, like, I don't know what you were hoping there. And then you realize, wow, she actually, like, she opened the door for us. She gave us a coordinate. Like, when she pressed that button, maybe she was sending coordinates. And it's like,
Yes.
and you think maybe she's going to blow up the building or something, but it's not. She sends coordinates instead. And she can, like, maybe she's got that one, I can do this, or I can blow up the building. I can get one last blow into the Terminator, or I can do this thing that we don't know what it is yet. And when she does it, it's like, we don't know what it is. She
So
dies.
she would die with a
We're like,
smile on her
oh.
face.
She dies with a smile on her face, knowing she has sent the coordinates, and her son will know what that means, or the Terminator will know what that means.
So how do we get that in? Is that a prologue at the beginning?
I don't know. I guess we have to make a choice. Is she in this film, or is she a memory in this film? Is she a legacy character?
I don't know, because again, if we think about the fact other Terminators may have been in between T2 and T3, maybe we could sell. I mean, it's starting to feel a bit messy again, but maybe we could sell that idea in that off screen there has been 3 other Terminator events that have tried to change time. And Judgment Day keeps getting further away, but they are trying to. I don't know. It feels like we should have this one and the T2 one, and maybe she is dead. If we're going for
I'm gonna make a judgment call here.
Yeah, right? A Judgment Day call.
A Judgment Day call. The studio executives have failed to get Linda Hamilton on board. Linda Hamilton said, "I'm not doing it. James Cameron's not doing it." James Cameron never wanted to do a third movie. He had finished it with Terminator 2. I mean, by his own rules, they save the world, so we have to assume Linda Hamilton's not coming back on this, but you can lay the groundwork that she left a treasure trail for us to get to the vault and to get to safety and survive. And that was her legacy, not a coffin full of guns. It was a path to survival.
Okay, nice. So she's left them. What has she left them though? She's left them.
I don't know. It could be anything. It could be it could be a code, or it could be like a journal, and it could be full of like here's what here are my teachings, and it's just. And along the way, she has discovered this place, and she's like, if you're ever in trouble, just go here.
They could be.
It could just be something like that. So if you're ever in trouble, just go here. And by the end, it's we have no choice.
So the tapes.
The tapes, yeah, from Terminator 2.
The tapes. We could have more tapes. Yeah. We could have notes. So that there's already a record of her doing that. So we could have more tapes. We could have more tapes from her. Well, we would need her voice, but that's a lot less. That's a different.
But she did it. She did that for Salvation.
Yes,
she lent her voice for that. So
maybe we've got that going on. So he's got a set of tapes. He's got himself an aged T800. He is aware of the future, that she is important. We don't necessarily have to suggest that it was done. Because the Terminators would have all been sent at the same time. So they're not coming from an alternate future. They're coming from the same future. So he can just say, look, yes, they sent the robot, sent the Terminator after you, but it's a double deal here. There's 2 of you that are the heroes of the resistance here. This one's here to kill both of you. Like this is the coup d'etat. This is to kill the duo that are responsible. So he's aware.
I would put emphasis though. First act is Kate Brewster. Mm-hmm. And you can open the movie with her just running for her life as people are gunned down around her. Like you can have it be like hit the ground running. But I think it's got to be focused on Kate at the beginning, and then it's come with us if you want to live, because the one thing they don't do well in this is they don't emphasize the importance of Kate Brewster. Like they're saying, I'm here to protect you, but it's like, it doesn't feel that way. And that's interesting, but it doesn't feel like that's what's really happening, because you put so much emphasis on John Connor being chased by a Terminator. Like he's the one who needs the protection here, it feels like, and so you got to really put the emphasis on Kate in the early stages of this movie. So there's no ambiguity. She's the important thing to protect here.
And what is the rationale of their child? So it feels weird to say no, your child is the savior, not you, but maybe the child is something else. You know, what maybe this child is an
It could just
important
be.
symbol of unity and Phoenix from the Flames, and because they won't know if they've come
Yeah.
back from the same point, they won't know what that child becomes. So
Yeah.
it doesn't. Maybe we can't focus on the child because we're
No, but it doesn't have to
because
be.
of
It can just be. It can just be. Maybe make Kate. Her father was military. Maybe she herself is. I don't know, a data analyst or something like that. If you don't want to make her kind of an action hero character, and maybe she's just got some skill that's going to play like. Maybe she's a computer software programmer, and it's like
yes,
you're going to be the one that creates the virus that's going to kill everybody, or that's going to kill the Skynet.
yeah.
Your
She's the
husband, your
character in the
husband,
she's the character in the chair, right?
yeah,
She's
your
Ned out of Spider
husband,
Man.
yeah, your husband is gonna launch the revolution, is going to create the resistance, but you're the one that's going to hit the enter key on the computer, like that kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. Again,
Okay.
we're playing with roles here that were kind of clumsily written in the first place, so it's hard to.
Yeah, well, we're re-clumsily writing them. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing right here. So I think we've just swept out a load of points there.
Nice.
So the Sarah Connor death, yes, she's going to be dead, but she's going to have left more than a
But-
coffin of
but-
guns. She's going to
Yeah, she's
tapes.
gonna. She protects her son. Yeah.
Yeah, we are rehashing the sending back to kill John Connor and Kate Brewster, but the point is that this was the point they knew they couldn't go beyond. It was Judgment Day. This was where Judgment Day was supposed to be, or this was where Judgment Day would have been. They've calculated it. This is where Judgment Day would be if the first Terminator fails. Because if the first Terminator fails, the odds are they'll have gone after
I have an
Miles
idea.
Dyson, etc. Yeah.
One simple little solution to Kate's function, rather than her being the solution in the future, she's the thing stopping Skynet in the present. As in, she has the ability to, like, she is the biggest influence on her father, and her father trusts his daughter implicitly.
Brilliant.
And you know what? I don't know. They keep pushing this thing on me, and my gut just doesn't tell me. What do you think, sweetheart? I think don't go for it. And it's as simple as that. It's a father's love for his daughter that is stopping Skynet. I know that sounds so cheesy when you say that.
No.
But that is Terminator
I
2.
like that.
Terminator 2 is the surrogate father figure to the son. It's giving the son the father he never had. And it's very much the cheesy mother-daughter relationship as well, just done really beautifully. And I think if you handle that really beautifully, I mean, we're not writing the script, we're just writing the treatment. Whoever writes the script's got to come up with a really beautiful interaction between father and daughter. And it's like, without you in the picture, your father would go for that.
Nice.
Or if we kill you now, in 5 years' time, Skynet will happen.
Okay, right.
That kind of thing.
How's about this? So
I don't know how that works because the father, like, they kill the father, and I don't know, but you build it around that.
Yeah. So how's about this? So the Skynet board of directors in the future, the Metal board of directors, they crunched some numbers and they were right. Point of convergence 1, Sarah Connor working in the Burping Burger or whatever the place she's at. Point 2 is John Connor when he's this age. This is an important time to get him.
And they blow up Cyberman,
But if that fails, they're going to fuck up the timeline. So, point 3, we know for a fact that if the probability of Judgment Day is still going to happen, it's probably going to be around here, and we know that it's going to come from the government. So they've calculated that Brewster, who does exist in the future, is the thing that they need to eradicate in that timeline. So I mean,
and the reason Judgment Day is going to happen again is because we facilitated it in Terminator 2. Robert Patrick wasn't the only entity there. And you could even introduce the idea that not every robot that gets sent back in time has to be, or not every piece of technology that gets sent back in time has to be this killing machine. There could have been an I don't know, a more or less interesting, but so, I don't know, some piece of technology that just got sent back to the right place and then just got used in some way, or a way of disseminating something, or the advent of the internet allowed. You could even do Cyberdyne was a rival to like Microsoft or something, and like when it went down. But it's like, now the internet is a thing, and so now we're going to infiltrate the internet. I don't. You could.
That's funny. So we're going to have
back in time in the internet.
I don't know. I think you've got the Mac time machine and stuff like that. Yeah, so surely that's fine. But yeah, I think there's something interesting there. I think if we have these points of convergence, they send them back, and yes, maybe they have sent back a spy Terminator that can, or maybe it's not a spy Terminator. Maybe it's a traitor. Maybe it's a human. They've sent back a traitor to.
Wow, that's good.
So there's a traitor that they've sent back.
Somebody has betrayed the resistance.
Yeah, to make it happen. And they've been there for 10 years, trying to make it happen. Maybe they've been modified in some way, but they are a human.
The destruction of Cyberdyne isn't really going to stop this anyway. Because you're going to have board of directors. I mean, it's not like they all died. It's not like every staff member that ever worked on it suddenly died. There is still, everybody's still out there. Like, okay, so big investigation. What was Miles working on? Like, why would he blow up his own building? It's just putting a bigger spotlight on what they were building.
Yeah.
And actually, somebody else who can come in and go, sir, I can fix this for you. So the board are going to be like, yeah, okay, let's salvage all the billions we invested.
So I'll tell you, how's about this? How's about they're using, so they've sent back would there be a need for it to be a human that is the traitor that is doing this?
No, it wouldn't need to be. And that's why one of your convergence robots could be, your convergence army could be serving that role in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, because I like the idea that there's a
we're sitting at a computer typing away, programming Skynet, and then every so often we hear a motorbike, and we just check, is that John? No, it's not. Okay, back to work. And that's it. And it's like,
But I think it would be, I don't know, it would be unusual for them to send back a Terminator that couldn't. Well, not Terminator.
Okay. I was just going to jump to that. Right? Have you ever seen The Bourne Legacy? The one without Matt Damon. There's a great moment in that film where there's a scientist in a lab, and he suddenly he kind of his programming just kicks in, and he shoots up the lab in this really terrifying. Like, I can kind of like think this is like as close as it comes to how horrible that kind of stuff can be. Like, it's really horrific, and it's really dark, and like they're all hiding and everything. He's just walking around, just shooting people indiscriminately. And you do that in your movie where it's like there's a guy there, oh, hey Bob, hey, how are you? And then like Bob one day just goes off, like, and it's just annihilates everybody in the office, and it's just really dark and really scary.
Okay. So
and
he's a sleeper. He's a sleeper Terminator, right? And he's programmed to be as human as possible because they figured out if T2 failed, they would wipe out 10 years of work, and they needed this sleeper Terminator to go and work in this fucking office for 10 years to get it, because you can't just drop. I mean, the idea that you could just go, bing, oh no, I fixed it. You would have to wait for technologies to be developed so things can be manufactured and stuff like that. You would have to influence time.
But you play it up as like, but we blew up, Cyberdyne. Yeah, you blew up a lab, but you didn't blow up the thing. You didn't destroy the thing that they were excited about. Humanity was excited about this technology, and they had all the ideas, they had all the blueprints. It wasn't, they had your board of directors who knew what was happening, and it was human greed that made them want to rebuild. And when somebody walked into their office with a solution, they jumped at it. And you've got this guy who just works all night, and they're like, don't you ever go home, Bob? I'm working, go away.
Don't you have a sleep, Bob? You're like a machine. The dialogue just writes itself.
Absolutely. And you play it up in a very subtle way where it's or you do, if it's a T1000, which it would be, because again, you're not going to risk it on the obviously technology, you can change appearance. And so it's like tonight it's Sarah was working all night. And you got some team there, they work all night, don't they? And it's like what are you talking about? Sarah hasn't been seen in 6 months, and then you realize,
okay, right,
like they're infiltrating,
nice. So their goalkeeper has infiltrated whatever will be. It doesn't have to be Cyberdyne, but it can still be Skynet. Because Cyberdyne was a business, Skynet, they could still name it that. No one's going to care. do you know what I mean?
But it's a carryover. Again, the board owns this. This is a public trading company, presumably. Yeah. So it's not like it's suddenly died with Miles. If anything, actually, as brilliant as Terminator 2 is, it actually isn't the end. I know you can say the studio are just trying to squeeze everything they can out of this, but actually it's clearly not the end. It would never be the end. What if Mark Zuckerberg said he was shutting down Facebook tomorrow, or the metaverse, whatever that ends up looking like, that's not the end of it. The ideas are in the public consciousness, and the idea of androids and AI and all that was already in the public consciousness. So it's not like Miles was the only guy who had ever come up with this stuff.
Right.
Other people would be working on this. You had MySpace and Facebook and Bebo and all these things anyway. There's never just one inventor. It's always other people are working on it. Just someone got there first, or someone got there in a bigger way. And I think it's totally credible that that board of directors that kind of the hedge fund director who lost everything with with Miles Dyson still sees potential in these other places as well. And again, going back to Westworld, the corporate side of Westworld as a TV series does that very well as well.
So we've got an opportunity here to create one of these weird paradoxical time loops that everyone scratches their head and goes, is that how it works? Maybe, yeah, hell with it. That's how it works. So they sent back a T1000 in T2 and a goalkeeper to fix Cyberdyne. Yeah, he works at Cyberdyne. It wasn't just one building, it's a multinational.
Yeah.
And that sleeper, as well as fixing Cyberdyne and making sure Skynet is created, maybe 10 years after it was supposed to be, it's also leaving messages somehow for the future. Is it burying them in the desert? What is it doing? So they then know in the new future where Skynet still exists, if John Connor is still the guy that stops them, or maybe Sarah Brewster is the one that stops them, they know when to send back an army of Terminators. Maybe there's that, so we can create our own paradox that lets us write the future and not get tangled up. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, great. Let's do that. And then, of course, they send back an army of. So the prologue would be Infiltrator Terminator arriving at the same time as Patrick, maybe existing in the same timeline. You see things on the news. You see things in the newspaper. Their employer says you can't come in. However we do it, we show them existing throughout Terminator 2 on the side, on the periphery, and then we're into, oh my god, they're going to build Cyberdyne.
I've got the perfect insider as well. Do you remember the deleted scene in Terminator 3 with William Candy, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger?
William Candy!
Well, obviously, he's a Terminator in our version now. And he's there going, we're just gonna, and he's the guy who's been working there, and he puts on his fake voice. What a stupid writing decision that was. My God, everything wrong with that. That's worse than Talk to the Hand, I think.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
It's just so bad. Anyway.
Yeah, let's not do that. No William Candy. No William Candy.
For those of you who don't know, William Candy was a deleted scene where the idea was that he was the model for the T-800. And it's played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's like this really happy-go-lucky Sergeant Candy. and he's got this kind of southern accent, and he's very cheerful and totally kind of tonally opposite. And then they've modeled the T-800 after him. But then elsewhere, there's this other guy who has Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice, and they're saying, "Oh, we'll use his voice on Arnold Schwarzenegger's body," and that is how the horrific monster from the first Terminator movie was born.
Nice. Nice.
No, we're not doing that. Anyway.
So I think we've just wiped out a load of almost all the points, actually. So the next point was the TX is inconsistent with her powers. She's gone, so we don't need to worry about her anymore.
But yes, I would like female Terminators.
We can have definitely female
yeah.
Terminators, and maybe there's a trio of them. And one or two can be female, and we don't over-sexualize them, because this was like the most dominatrix Terminator I've ever seen. Like,
but they called her the Terminatrix.
Yeah,
like I remember there being toys of her, like the Terminatrix.
The Terminatrix. Here you go, children.
And why? Because she's a woman. Like, I mean, that was it. Yeah. That was simply it. She's a female killer.
We're not going to do that.
Dominatrix. It was so bad. So bad.
So they're going to be like hard ass Vasquez style.
Yeah.
Or even Linda Hamilton style, that kind of ferocity, where it doesn't matter like what soldiers, your gender is. Gender's not important in that situation. The relationship between the T-800, let's forget the 850 thing, the T-800 and John. So if there was a second one sent back to come out and help John at a certain point, possibly after his mother's death, that is the one that he's bonded with. And he's been out there waiting for Judgment Day, 2.0, waiting and waiting. They know that there was some other thing happening. They don't know what it is. They're just sort of waiting in the wings to see what happens. So they knew there was something funny going on.
But I definitely
just watching Kate Brewster.
I definitely want Arnold Schwarzenegger to turn, because I love the line in Rise of the Machines where he says, something is irrelevant. I am a machine, and the way he says it is really good. It's really good.
I know, but the I had such a problem with the fact it got took over, because why didn't you just do that straight away?
I know, yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, why has that happened?
Or what you do is you have a T-1000 emulating Arnold Schwarzenegger. Real Arnold Schwarzenegger beat him over the head.
Okay, nice.
Anyway, sorry, pointless little thing, but
no, that worked. And then the new Fate thing, we've kind of solved that already.
Yeah, it's not. It's skill that is allowing the Terminators to create Judgment Day. They can be defeated, but you've got to work harder than just killing the man who started the company. Like, no one is investing. Like, it's not credible. And sorry, James Cameron, to poke holes in your masterpiece, but it's not credible that a company gets billions of investment, presumably, because I don't know how you're funding all this otherwise, around, or hundreds of millions of investment around one person's skill. Surely he's passing his knowledge on to other people, right? Because I mean, unless you're doing everything yourself, is he the only employee in that company? No. So there are other people who will be able to continue on his work. So you got to do more than just wipe out. So the whole no fate thing is very easily explained.
Yes.
Or sorry, very easily maintained. Yeah. While allowing Judgment Day to continue to happen, and that is simply, you guys didn't try hard enough back in the day. Good first effort, but you started the firing pistol, but after that, like, you got more work to do. This isn't the fight to save humanity isn't going to be won in a day. Like, that's the thing Schwarzenegger needs to tell.
It's the long
John
game.
Connor needs. Yeah, it is a long game.
The whole thing is about the long game, right? So
because the Terminators are sending people back in time. It is a long game.
Yeah.
So
if we let me rehash, because I think we've got to wrap it up now. So if we go back, so we're suggesting that the events of Terminator 2 were not the only events. We just didn't see them in Terminator 2. So at the same time, they calculated that if the T-1000 failed in killing John Connor as a teenager, there's a very high chance that they would strike at Skynet and Cyberdyne Systems. So they sent back a goalkeeper, a sleeper Terminator, or it doesn't even have to be a Terminator, a sleeper agent to do the work that would need to get it back online. That agent is constantly leaving messages for the future. They're burying them somewhere, or they are leaving coded messages. So in the future, when the timeline has been rewritten, they can send Terminators back to a point of convergence where they know Judgment Day will happen. Yes, now we can kill John Connor. So there was a whole sequence of events that have to happen before they can send more Terminators back, which is why they just don't send them to anywhere. So the rebellion knew about this. They sent back a second Terminator to lie in waiting because they would not know where it was going to go. So they both sent back goalkeepers, the Skynet and the rebellion. And it lay in waiting until Sarah Connor dies. And Sarah Connor dies of leukemia, and it's horrible. And her legacy is a set of tapes for John. So John Connor knows the fact because he's got his own Terminator sitting by his side shortly after his mum dies. This is all off screen. He knows that Sarah Brewster is going to be...
Kate Brewster.
Sarah Brewster? Kate Brewster is going to be massively important, and it's likely that she's going to be attacked at some point if they send more Terminators back. So they lie in waiting and watch, and he becomes Carl Reese, she becomes Sarah Connor, star characters. First act is all about Kate. John and Arnie turn up at the end of the first act. There's no TX. What happens is they've sent 3 T-1000s back just to try and wipe out whatever happens, and they've sent them back at the point it's too late to stop Judgment Day. So the goal of John is to save Kate. The goal of the Terminator is to get them both locked in a bunker, because we can keep that ending.
And the Terminator knows to do that because of the path that Sarah Connor has laid out for her. Mm-hmm. For her, the clues that his mother has laid out for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her her legacy is you saved the resistance. Yeah.
Yes. So they're quite broad brushstrokes, I think. But if you think of it as a structure of what you could write around, I think there's probably a good, strong center to that story, that it is more of the same. And it's not necessarily inevitable, but...
I've got one more addition.
Go on then. What have you got?
Very quickly. John Connor at the beginning is a loner. He's got his Terminator, but that's it. Terminator is like his dog, his attack dog, basically. But he doesn't have anybody else. And it's a slow relationship build between him and Kate. And eventually it turns into something else. Because of his relationship with Kate, they start, so I don't know, there's some event near the end, and it's like everybody's fleeing and he leads them to safety. He becomes almost like the savior of that group. And then they all make their way into the bunker, and he has saved this group of people, and maybe he gives them a little speech or something to kind of motivate them, or just to calm them down, or to tell them what's really happening. And that is his ascension to leadership. Or at least we are showing that he has grown into a leader role, because he's not a leader in Terminator 2.
I don't know. I think with the run to the bunker is quite a good. I think if we lose that, we kind of lose that massive ending. But there could be this weird cliffhanger that they're now in the bunker, but they also have a T-800 with them. So how does that affect the future? Like, what does that mean? Is there another convergent timeline happening because they've ended up...
if they bring a T-800 with them, if that T-800 comes with them, could that be the one that gets sent back to Terminator 2? Because they can't just...
It's old. It's old.
Yeah,
it's the old Terminator. It's been in waiting.
Never mind.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to call it. We'll keep the Judgment Day ending, but... And the T-800 doesn't make it in.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make it. But I would make it be that there are a group of survivors with them that he has saved. Kind of like the way at the end of the new Batman film, there's kind of, he people trust him, people extend their arms for him to help them. and he's become a hero to these people, and I think you
Yes.
need that moment where, like, fast forward 20 years from now, and like
Nice.
some of those people will still be there with him.
Nice. I like
Okay.
it. So I think that, like I said, that's quite broad, but I could spend another 2 hours on this. I think this could be
Yeah.
a really fun film to write. Maybe we'll just write it anyway. Do a fan fiction screenplay.
As usual, if the studios ever want us to
Of course.
get involved to do this, they know where to find us.
Yes. Right, John, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening. This has been The Great Hollywood Rewrite from the Script Department. Please check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net, for more conversations like this. Take a look at our social media. The links are in the description, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for the Script Department and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have any ideas for a film or TV show you'd like us to look at next week, just hit us up in the comments or message us directly. We look forward to hearing your suggestions. Nice one.